what I would just like to start off with at the very beginning here is just to give you a little bit of information about Newbury. I'm not going to kill you with PowerPoints. This will be the only one related to Newbury. So Newbury is a partner for 2.5+ years now with Bullhorn, working on a whole variety of different types of projects, as you can see from all the different areas listed here on this slide. We have worked on hundreds of projects at this point, and really varying from very tiny, a few hours to thousands of hours. So we can sort of bridge the gap between any needs you've got as it relates to Bullhorn. If there's additional needs that you don't see on here, likely we can help with that as well. So what we're going to go through today, we're talking about the open source career portal, as you all know. And so what we're going to do is just go through sort of the nuts and bolts of how you use it, first of all. So we'll show you what it looks like from the Bullhorn side, as well as a few different samples of what the portal can look like on your website. We'll show you secondarily a few customizations that are fairly easily incorporated into your portal. And then third, we'll go through a bit of a high-level description of how the implementation of the portal can be accomplished and some information on where you can get more details regarding that implementation. As we're getting started here, I want to just do a quick poll. Sarah, you can kick that poll out to folks. So if you can just answer whether or not you have the portal installed at this point. Not something you got us do on too long. It's a pretty straightforward question for you, hopefully.
So it looks like more than half of the group does not currently use the open source career portal.
Okay, great. Well, thank you guys for identifying that for us. Just makes us a little bit wiser in terms of who we're talking to here. So that's great. I'm glad to see the interest from those who haven't been using it yet at this point. So I am going to now just jump right into Bullhorn. So you should recognize this. This is Novo. I'm logged in on a training environment that we have here at Newbury, and I'm logged in as an administrator. So I just want to set the stage there for you guys. And hopefully you recognize what you're looking at here. This is a job record, and I'm on the edit tab of that job. So first thing I want to just point out is a few of the components that the portal utilizes, if you will. So that's why I'm starting here on the Bullhorn job screen. So the first thing that you typically see here is the job title. So this is something that will be populated onto the portal. The other field I want to point out is the open/closed. The portal will only display those jobs that are opened or in a state of open. Just point out that that's not the status. You can have an open and a closed status, but really it's the portal itself is looking at that open/closed field within Bullhorn. A couple other fields that I'll just point out to you is the category. As you're publishing your job, you do identify a single category. You can see here I have a few different categories, but it is a single category field on the portal in order to do some filtering, and I'll show you very soon where you see that. The last thing I just want to show you on the actual fields within the job record are the job description and the published description. You may call those differently. As you know, you can call those whatever you would like, but the key here being you can have a difference between what you would consider an internal description of the job versus what is actually getting published out to the open source career portal. This comes in very handy, especially if you have some sort of a VMS feed from, say, Fire, whereby you can have the description come over from Fire as it exists from that VMS system, and then sort of clean it up, make it more in line with how you would like to describe that position for the public. So from the job record, either from the edit tab or from the overview, anywhere that you can see this actions button is where you can publish your jobs. So simply you go to this publish option. What that does is it brings you to a publish dialog box, basically. You can see in this case, this job is already published. I just simply would not have this unpublished button available were it not to be published yet. And this would say published as opposed to republish. But just want to point out a few different fields here that we're dealing with. So one is that description that we were just looking at. You can actually change the description right here. I'll just put in the word test for now, and that will populate back to your job public description. So you don't have to change it in both places. If you get to this point and realize you want to make a little tweak to that description, that's not a problem. You can do that right here on this page as well. The publish description field, I already mentioned that that's a single value that is used for filtering on the portal. If you care, what it's actually putting in as a default here when you go to publish a job is numerically it picks the first category based on all the categories you have on your job page. So based on that category ID that it uses behind the scenes. And then the next and last field here is the published contact recruiter. In this case, that's one of my user accounts that I have here in this sandbox system. Just of note is that is the person that will receive an email notification when somebody applies to that job. And I'll show you what that looks like a little bit later as well. Before I go to the actual portal, I do want to just show you one thing on the job list, which is you can add a couple of fields to your list using the column selector. I'm sure you're aware of how to do that. But you can add in both this open closed field as well as a field called publishing status. And so if you filter based on those two columns, one pulling in open jobs and two pulling in published approved jobs, this will tie to the number of jobs and the specific jobs that you do see on your portal. So a nice way to just sort of check what's out there if you don't want to actually go to your portal and you're already, working your jobs or in Bullhorn for whatever reason. All right, so next I'm going to slide over to a portal so you can actually see what the portal looks like. So this is the portal straight out of the box. No changes have been made to this other than the couple of configuration things that you have to do in order to install it. Josh will talk about that a little bit later. You can see I do have the name Newbury up there. That's one of the sort of default settings that you do identify what text you'd like there. What I'd like to do is just talk through some of the different components of this for you. First of all, you'll notice on the left-hand side is several different filtering options. So one of those options is this keyword search. So I can search for, let's just look for street. And so it's filtered that down to where we have the word street in these jobs. I want to point out specifically it is looking at the description of the job as well as the title of the job. So if I clear that filter, you can see these different locations were narrowed down, but now you can see that they are available for selecting. They're listed alphabetically. And so you can just simply select the different cities that you're interested in, and it will display those for you here as well. And as you can probably guess by now, you can do the very same thing on the category field. So it will display just those jobs that you are looking to be displayed based on your criteria. So this is activity that the candidate themselves can do right on your website to filter down to the jobs that they're interested in. I will point out also that the date and potentially time here, as you can see with 2 hours ago, this is based on when the job was published from Bullhorn, as well as when it was republished. So this job right here at the top, I actually republished it 2 hours ago, just so you could see that that's what that looks like. So one nice feature there is if you are looking at a hot job that you are really trying to fill, you could republish it just to get it to the top of your list in your portal. Kind of trick the system a little bit that way, because these are ordered based on newest at the top and oldest at the bottom. So next I want to go into an actual job. So I'm going to go into here, and you can see the description shows here. Obviously, you can have a lot more description here. There's a lot more room for something much more meaningful. But what you can do from here is apply to that job. So if I click on this apply button, and here you can see the different fields that are required based on the red asterisk, as well as optional, which is just this mobile phone field. So I am going to put in just a dummy email here, if you will. Put a .com. So you can see as I was doing that, it was identifying whether or not it's a valid email. It has a little bit of intelligence around that as well. So as I said, mobile is optional. This send button is still grayed out at this point, which means I can't send it yet. That's because I do have to attach a resume file. So I'm going to attach this resume test file that I have and simply click on send. So right now what the system is doing is it's pushing that information up to Bullhorn. It took that resume and the little bit of data that was entered and did something with it on the Bullhorn side, and we're going to look at that in a second. One thing I will just mention right here is this thank you. This is also adjustable, sort of that out of the box message is what's displayed here, but you can definitely customize that thank you if you would like to. So you simply say, okay, I got that, no problem. And as you can see here, it says you've already applied, so it sort of keeps track of that for you as long as you're still on this browser. It will not remember that. Say you come back next week, it will not realize that you've already applied. It doesn't maintain that. So let me switch back over to Bullhorn now, and I'm going to go back into this job, this Calzone street vendor job that we have applied to. And I'm going to click on the submissions tab. And what I'll point out is that we have a web response. And so this is where you see those that have applied to your open positions within Bullhorn against the job. You can also see, based on the name that I entered, that a candidate has been created. Obviously, the date and timestamp, and also the source is identified as the corporate website. All good information to understand. If I click into the candidate itself, you can see I have here the resume that was uploaded. It's parsed the information that it can. It's put in phone numbers and addresses, and you can see it's got work history and education, just like the normal parser does. And it also has a file for the actual resume document that was uploaded. So you can see all those components are what the system was doing for that about 1 to 2 seconds while it was processing that application. Next, what I'd like to do is just switch back over to this portal again, and I just want to apply to a second job. I just want to point that out to you that I can apply to more than one job, obviously. And when I do it, again, as long as I haven't left this browser, it does remember who I am, so I don't have to re-enter those few bits of information. And I can attach a second resume file in this case, and simply hit send, and it goes through the same process. What I'd like to do is pull Bullhorn back over again, and just show you what that did, which is if I hit refresh on this Files tab, I now have both resumes attached. As part of the implementation of the portal, you do have an option between two different ways of how you want the system to handle a second application if that candidate already exists in your system. So you can have it do exactly what I have it set up to do right now, which is simply add that second resume file. It will still enter the web response on that second job as well. So you will see that that tracking maintains. But the option that you have is that not only do I maybe want to attach this resume, but I also want the system to go through the reparsing to pull out all the different information related to this resume and the results of that parsing. So for example, if anything within that resume changed, maybe a phone number, maybe experience, whatever it is, it's going to then update those values within your candidate record, if that's the option that you've chosen. This is a global setting. It's not per job. It's a global setting within your Bullhorn environment. All right. Next, what I'd like to do, and this is sort of the second item on the agenda, if you will, so shifting to that part of the webinar here, is I just want to show you some of the things that can be done to the portal to make it a little bit more in line with how you would like it to look and behave. So if I go to this next tab, this is a simple one that we've put together. A lot of the colors and that sort of thing didn't really change much. I do want to point out that we can put a logo at the top. You can have that be a link. If you look down at the bottom, you can see that the address that it's going to bring me to is displayed there. So you can have your logo on here and have that be a link back to your site. You can pull in all the different components of your site here as well. So these would all work interacting directly with your website itself. So you can make it much more in line with your website. It doesn't have to be sort of standalone with the way the out of the box looked, if you will. A few different things that I'll just point out here, some additional things that we've done. We added a second field here for filtering besides just category. Maybe we want to get to a little bit further detail as well, is we can do some filtering based on the skills. In this case, this is a very specific skill field that we set up, a custom field, just for the publishing of the skills to the portal. So you can add that type of filter. A couple other things I'll just point out here is maybe if you have a lot of jobs that are posted, you may want to have the job number identified here. So I don't know if you noticed previously that wasn't there, but in this case it is here. So you can add the job number. Helpful if you're going to have conversations with somebody while they're looking at your website. You can just be absolutely sure you're looking at the same job on Bullhorn side as maybe they're looking at on your portal. We also did change the keyword search in this case to filter based on that job number as well. So you could simply have that job number from Bullhorn, come to your portal, type that in, and easily identify it. Another thing that you can do, I just want to point out here, if I type in, notice Gatineau is the city on this top job here. If I type that in here, it doesn't filter on that. That is something that we can build into this keyword search if you'd like. Again, if you have a lot of jobs on here, your potential candidates may not want to try and scroll through all these different locations that are within the filter. And so maybe you want to add that to a keyword search functionality. We didn't do that on this specific portal, but definitely something that can be done. I will point out that that city and state is coming from the address that's on the job entry page as well. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to flip to another portal. I'm going to warn you before I do this, it's obnoxious on purpose. Josh made me say that to you guys. But we just wanted to show you that you can get as creative as you want to with how your portal looks. So every different component can have different colors, the wording, the background, the wording there, the color of this box up here, the filter, the background behind all your keyword searching. Obviously you can see here we put an image at the top here. Still have our logo on top of that. Even this powered by down here is a little bit different. So lots of different options around colors. You can get as creative as you'd like. With a typical implementation that Newbury does, we'll grab the colors from your website and sort of make that line up with what we think is a good look related to how you have your website designed, sort of trying to line that up similarly. And obviously we can tweak those as we need to make it look exactly as we want it to. A couple other things I just want to point out on this site as well. I'm going to go into one of these jobs. Again, these buttons are annoyingly a bright color here, just to point out that that can be changed as well. Pretty much anywhere color-wise and font-wise can be updated. So, but notice we added another button here. I want to point out a few different things around each of these different apply buttons. First of all, if I click on the apply here, I do want to point out we have down here at the bottom all the EEOC or the standard EEOC fields from within Bullhorn. So gender, ethnicity, veteran status, and disability status, those are out of the box options for the portal as well. It's simply a matter of turning those on. So I don't want you to think that that's something that we had to specifically customize, but that is something that can be turned on as you're installing your portal. I'm going to leave this apply and show you the apply without resume. So some people don't have a resume. Not sure who those people are exactly, but really depending on the industry that you're in, that could be a very real scenario. And so we have created an option whereby you don't have to have a resume. So you'll notice there is no attached resume anywhere on here. You can see there's several additional fields that we've added to this. And there's a special way that we tricked the system to be able to accommodate for these fields. Happy to go through that with you individually if you'd like to understand the capabilities there around additional fields that we can include on the apply, if you will. The last thing I want to show you around the portal itself is actually back on this main screen. You may have noticed our Calzone street vendor job is not here. And the reason for that is we actually limited this portal to just very specific jobs. And so if I scroll down, you'll see there's only 8 of them here. On the previous portal, there was, I don't know, 18 or 19, I think. And so what we did there is just another relatively easy customization where we took a field in job and identified which portal we wanted that job to go to. So the first portals that we were looking at, the first portal was all open jobs. We didn't put any sort of a filter on it. And this portal, we put a filter on there that was identified within the job. And so I'll just pull Bullhorn back over here again and just show you on the job list. We added, again, a custom field called job board type. And we just said, you know, this is the Newbury SI group board that we want that to be posted to, or portal. And so these are the 8 jobs that were identified as such. Now you can do 3, 4, 5 portals, whatever you'd like. We definitely see this comes into play if you have different lines of business, maybe. So you'd like different sites on your website for those different lines of business, or even different branding. Doesn't even have to be a totally different line of business. And so again, you could do a filter just on this specific board type to tie back to those jobs that were posted to that portal. So again, those were just some of the kind of relatively easy. This last one I showed you has a little bit more some custom code around making the portal understand how to post those, but relatively easy customizations that can make this site exactly how you want it to be. And really, the sky's the limit. It is an open source career portal. What that means is Bullhorn has created it for you to then take it and make it be what you want it to be. So with that, Josh, I'm going to kick it over to you to talk through the installation.
Sure. So the great thing about this being open source is you could customize it yourself, or you could install it right out of the box. So the easiest way to get started would to be go to the help.bullhorn.com page. You should all be familiar with this. You could search for the open source career portal or the OSCP portal, and basically anything, and you're going to find your way to it. From here, we'll make our way over to the GitHub wiki page. So there's a little bit of detail here around how it works and how to install it. There's even an example to show you what it looks like. So if you click this open source career portal link, it'll take you right to the GitHub wiki. So on here, there's detailed instructions on how to install the career portal. The first thing you'll want to do is contact Bullhorn support. They'll give you a corporate token and a swim lane, and these are specific to your corp in Bullhorn. This is how it knows which jobs to pull in and where to post candidate resumes back to. So if you wanted to customize this, you would go to the code tab and you'd either pull this down with Git, or you would download the zip. And from there, there's detailed instructions in the README file on actually building their career portal. It does use a tool called Browser Sync. So while you're editing the career portal, you can actually see your changes live. I personally, after I get contact support, I create a few test jobs and publish them, and then just start customizing it. So once you've followed all these instructions and you've actually built the career portal, the last step is to really just host the career portal. So if your current web host doesn't allow it, you could go and do an Amazon S3 bucket. There's instructions right in this wiki on how to do that. Every time I log into Amazon, the S3, it looks different. So this might look a little different, but you should be able to navigate through it. So this is a cheap solution that allows you to host it directly. So an even better idea, if you don't want to do it yourself, is you could always contact Newbury and we could help you go through this process.
All right. So with that, Sarah, I think we can open it up for any questions that have come in.
Absolutely. And we've got a couple here. So our first question is, can you publish custom fields to the career portal?
Yes. So there is a configuration on your private label where it allows, the career portal uses a public API. So there are different fields that are automatically allowed. If you want to add any custom fields, you just call support and they can add them in. And then you would customize your career portal to allow that field to actually enter the portal. So it is possible.
Awesome. Our next question, does a job automatically get removed from the portal when it's closed?
Yes, it does actually. Because the portal itself isn't storing those job records, it's actually doing an API call every time you come to that page. And so what that means is that you can just mark a job as closed within Bullhorn, and it will automatically come off of the portal the next time anybody looks at that page.
Okay, our next question. I noticed on the published page in Bullhorn that you can post to Twitter and Facebook and one other one. What does it look like when posted to social media?
That's a great question. I think actually if I go back to our searches here, I know that I've seen this, so let me just search for portal. Bingo, right here. So again, this help area is very helpful in identifying any kinds of different questions you may have around the portal. It's got lots of great details in there. It even has screenshots here of what it would look like, just to remind those who didn't notice it, if you're in Bullhorn. in the actual job and you have clicked on the publish, what they're referring to are the Indeed, Twitter, and Facebook icons down here at the bottom. I will point out that there's also other portals that you're able to post to, and those are also identified on the help pages within Bullhorn Help, and just things that need to be turned on with support by the Bullhorn support team.
Okay, thank you. And our next question is, can you publish multiple jobs at once?
No, unfortunately you can't. As I mentioned, it is from this actions button. There is not a publish available, say from the list when you've selected multiple ones. So it is one at a time.
Okay, and is the portal available on mobile?
Yes, definitely. It is mobile friendly. There's not a mobile app for it necessarily. Obviously, it's on your site, but it is mobile friendly. And I will say that you can attach resumes from multiple different sources, either on the actual mobile or tablet. Also, I know that Google Drive, I believe OneDrive as well. So lots of opportunity there for people to get those resumes attached as they're applying.
Okay, and looks like we have a technical question here. What programming language is the portal written in?
So the portal is written in JavaScript, and it's using the Angular framework. And the Angular framework allows the code to be extremely well laid out, so you'll easily be able to navigate it.
All right, and if I change something like the job description in Bullhorn, do I have to republish?
No, you don't actually. Similar to what I was talking about previously on the open and closed. Again, because the portal is pulling based on the API each time you refresh, you can just simply change that job title, change that description right within Bullhorn, and it will automatically update on that portal. I did notice though that category does not work that way. I think that's simply because there's multiple values allowed on that category field, and so therefore you would have to republish and specifically identify that one single category field that you're publishing. So yes to the specific question, but not in every field, I guess I'll put it that way.
Awesome. And I think that's where we're going to end it for the webinar today. There were some questions asked that we did not have the opportunity to get to. So for those, we will be sure to follow up shortly after we wrap up, and we will also be sending out a copy of the webinar recording to everyone who attended. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks all for your time.